Development on Battlefront 2, at least in terms of new content, right now is up in the air. It seems that new content support is kind of winding down, or at least word on newly created content is not really happening right now. It's understandable, we've gotten so much content relatively since launch, and that has taught us how long it takes to create different elements from scratch. However, sometimes new assets aren't needed to create new content, and sometimes using existing in-game elements just arranged in a different way can really add some additional value at a relatively low effort cost. Here are some additional modes I think could be created with what we have in-game already. Some rule set coding is what would be needed and maybe some additional tweaks, but from what I've heard, this would take significantly less time to create. I'm obviously not calling for all or any of this to be implemented. I understand that more modes split the player base. I'm just throwing some fun suggestions out there. That being said, let's get into these new potential additions. Now that we have Hero AI for all characters implemented in co-op, Vehicle AI implemented in instant action, and Starfighter AI implemented in arcade, it would be a great time to bring them all together and bring the beloved Galactic Assault offline. It would have to be altered a little. As far as I understand and can remember from statements from the developers, gaining AI to do the objectives is extremely difficult, other than having them capture points. So I would suggest replacing activation objectives with areas to capture, as I don't think the change will be any more radical than changing real players to AI. I don't know what we would do for the on-rails moving targets though, like the MTTs and the walkers. They definitely still need to be in there and playable. Maybe contesting smaller areas that disappear as the main objectives gets closer and have new ones appear further along at the same time, and how many you capture can be indicative of how much it damage a bombing run of sorts. It will depend on the map and context, of course, would do when it reaches a destination. For example, LAATs could do a bombing run on the MTTs when they reach their destination, and how much damage they do would depend on how many mini areas the clones were able to capture during that phase. Maybe like 18 zones would be present throughout the match or the phase, and the clones would need to capture around 15 or 16 to do full damage and end the round right there, or capture at least 11 zones to bring it down to half health, which would affect the 50 additional tickets that would be added on at the end of the phase. The other objectives would feel familiar, just replacing activation with capturing. I would like to keep the damage to the pylons on crate. I think that's a unique mode which can be easily coded into the AI to aim for the target. GA is great because of the many choices and tools it gives you to complete rapidly changing objectives, and thus an offline variant would need to do the same, if not take it a step further. Options for friendly and enemy AI limits on heroes and vehicles as seen in instant actions is a must, and maybe the option to start off as a hero or start off as a reinforcement or a starfighter at the start of the match could be added. As long as the settings offer the same feeling of freedom that instant action or hell, even skirmish from Battlefront 2015 has, it would be a good addition. This mode would require some art assets, but that's about it. How this could work could be complicated to explain, but it's essentially a giant board game where you take capital ships to certain planets and enter into a match to take that planet over. The enemy AI also has a ship and tries to do the same. You take it in turns. So if you take a ship to a planet, you attack, they defend, and when you take control of the planet, but then their turn comes, they take their ship to a planet and they attack, and you have to defend. If you try both for the same planet, a space battle ensues before the match. The rewards for winning a match would be points that could be used to be spent on perks to take into the next round. Rewards such as extra units, faster battle points, no cost on heroes, etc. The matches themselves would be instant action, just like in a default state. Some rewards for winning could basically be the same as the ability to change the slider settings for the next match. If you wanted the matches to be more like Supremacy and include a capital ship phase, well, a simple copy of the capital ship co-op that we have now could be implemented. Split screen for this long multi-session mode would be great, and a deeper reward and strategy system to make the mode more challenging and introduce more depth would be fantastic. Something similar to the 2005 version would be cool, and you can see that explained here in Rogue Console's video on the matter. Game modes from Battlefront 2015's DLCs introduced multi-stage phases that included starfighter gameplay, transitioning into boots on the ground. Something similar could be made by combining one phase from a starfighter assault map and maybe one or two phases from a galactic assault map. These modes received mixed reception, so maybe it wouldn't be the most popular, but it could feel the most cinematic in a storytelling manner as you transition from sky to open plains, on the ground to tight corridors, throwing anything and everything to defeat your enemy. The sky battles would be more objective based, and the ground phases would be a miniature GA of sorts with less strict rules. You could use the locking of how many heroes are allowed or which heroes are allowed to really introduce strict immersion of the story the mode tells each time, just like how it was done in Battlefront 2015. Where there be differently skinned BB units racing around the Resurgent class Star Destroyer, speeders competing against each other on the trickery forest paths of Endor, or a strict pathway that needs to be followed set up for a certain class of starfighter in the skies above Ryloth. Racing the fastest units against each other in familiar locations always presents for a fun mini-game and a great distraction from the intense blast and explosion usually present. DICE could get really creative with how they manipulate familiar locations and assets to accommodate our need for speed.
Holy shit, that was close.
Finally, a more relaxed and experimental mode they could add would be an even more customizable arcade. It would be unique as you would be able to create your own hero. All DICE would have to do is allow you to create a character by choosing a base model to edit, like having Rey or Dooku or Luke. From there you could mix and match different abilities the other heroes have and use them for yourselves. Not all of them would be available, of course. I imagine only Grievous would have the ability on his model to have the Claw Rush, but most abilities, even Blaster hero abilities, would be available. You could give a Blaster hero a saber and a saber hero a gun. Again, some of the abilities would depend on the weapons. I can't imagine how you would rapid fire a saber or duelist with a blaster. You could also choose which animation swing style you would want to pick if you pick a saber. Oh, also saber colors would be kind of cool. Or choose a default swing option they could create for this. Then you would be able to enjoy a session of arcade with this new hero you've just created. Imagine it now, a Rey skin with Obi-Wan animations and stamina, able to throw Leia's thermal detonators, use Dooku's lightning stuns, and flip like she does in the movies with Yoda's dash. Or have a Palpatine skin with Dooku's animations and saber, Maul's saber throw, Anakin's pull, and Iden's shield. The possibilities are endless. There would be some restrictions, but new and interesting creations could inspire many players throughout the community. And just let you have a bit of fun in arcade, which can get pretty stale pretty fast. Creating new and fresh content can be time and resource consuming from conception to execution. However, manipulation of assets that come from this can be used to create even more than ever expected in some cases. It would make sense if content for Battlefront 2 is winding down, that the use of already developed assets would be an efficient way of introducing new concepts. Limitations can often breed immense creativity, and whether DICE would implement similar ideas to the ones I just laid out or completely new ideas, if at all, I'm sure there would be a riot to play and really demonstrate the potential this game has.